Hello, hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome once again. My name is Monika. Welcome to Guru Grit. This is a place for learning and enthusiasts of all things spiritual and astrological. So today's presentation comes to you by surprise because one of my patrons asked about divorce and astrology. So completely unplanned, we're having a whole relationship series, and I mean, why not? Let's have some fun. Let's get into no marriage in astrology, because as I was doing the divorce, I was thinking, but there's just so many reasons for everything, and so I wanted to do, what about no marriage? How do you see no marriage? Because there's a slight distinction between no marriage or delay or extreme delay, and to me they all look very similar. And you have to remember, changing social and cultural trends are also, it's also getting harder to see if somebody will marry late or not marry at all, I suppose. So I wanted to go over that with you and mention it. So, I mean, it's just quite helpful, isn't it? So the people that I used for examples, I will tell you which ones I think still might marry, but I will just use their chart as to why they might not have married to date, because there could be extreme delay in late marriage, extremely late marriage, and so forth. So here we have a little picture of Virgo here. Virgo's the maiden or the virgin, but not virgin in the sexual sense. It's in ancient times, it would have been an unmarried woman who was unattainable or unwed. I have a whole article about it on medium.com. I'll link it in the description. You should read it. It's quite spectacular. So if I say so myself, just explaining the complexity. There she is again with her little plant. Very cute. So what to look for? We want to look to the 7th house, see if it's healthy, if it's damaged, are there malefics in it, and the Lord. Okay, is the Lord being helped? Is it being hemmed? Is it being harshly aspected? What's happening? What's going on? What is showing us that there's a high probability that person will not marry, and if they want to, they'd have to put in more of an effort than someone else, for example, okay? Girl, you good? Which girl? Venus, our girl. Okay, Venus is the planet that will show us the condition of the bond, the condition of the marriage, or if you cannot marry, then the choice. Can you choose a decent person? So what's going on with Venus? Is she healthy? Is she being helped? Is she being hemmed? Is she debilitated? Is she debilitated and retrograde and combust? What's happening with her? So all those things are important. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Look at her with her little men, I don't know, little admirers serenading her. Is quite lovely. I just have to move this out of the way. A little post-it's bothering me. Okay. So Venus rules love, relationships, sharing, harmony. When we get married, we have to ensure to have a harmonious life. We have to integrate another person and make that work best for us. In order to make it work best, we have to choose a decent person. So Venus rules our ability to make good decisions. She rules value. Do you value in yourself, in your marriage? Sometimes you'll see married people with harsh Venuses and they don't really care. I mean, they don't really care if they're not that invested. They're not bad people, but they're not very interested. If their partner stays or goes, if they stay or leave, they're just meh. It's just one of those things in life. It's not the blueprint of their soul, it's their greatest passion or some such thing. So you will see that in people from time to time as well. And we all marry for different reasons. So, I mean, you can tell from Venus if someone really gives a rip or not. All right, first chart example is Sheryl Crow, who's never married. It's an amazing chart, first of all. It's so cool. It's Aquarius is really cool. So it's the ultimate Aquarius chart. So here we have, she's a Taurus rising. So Scorpio occupies the 7th house and Mars rules Scorpio, sits in the 10th house. All right, so he's strong in the 10th, but he's not in a good sign for him. And he's really, really close to Saturn. So that's something that could really slow it down. Saturn also aspects the 10th house from here. So that could also slow things down and also be quite karmic, because in any case, Aquarius is a karmic sign. It's one of the more difficult ones that you can incarnate. Not difficult's not a good word. I don't know, trying, challenging. And, she's got a lot going on there. So she's got, 6 out of the 7 potential planets in there and the node. So quite a lot. Venus is not debilitated, but she is combust. Okay, so I mentioned that Venus is combust. And then we also have the South Node. Now remember that Jupiter rules the husband for the woman. And in this case, he is combust by the sun, but also to the other side of him, we have the South Node. So when Jupiter's the South Node, the person might not have, sometimes their judgment is off, other times they just don't have good prospects. But the way that I would phrase it, and especially because, the Aquarius waves are just making me think about it, it's like the people that you meet are not on your wavelength. If you're trying to marry a man, the men that you meet for a long time, if you get married, up until you're married, pretty much everybody you meet before your husband just doesn't get you. They literally don't understand that you're smart. And you could be like really smart and they would just be like, let me explain something to you. And you're like, oh, out of courtesy, you probably won't say anything, but you're thinking, are you kidding me? But they don't get it. They're not on your frequency. They're very Aquarian to be like, they're not your vibe, but they're not your vibe. Okay. So things like that are very possible. So she probably just couldn't meet people that resonated with her, or she just didn't care for them. She knows her worth. In any case, Saturn ruled signs, so Capricorn and Aquarius do very well in their own company because Saturn loves solitude. Okay, he's like the outcast of the stars. He doesn't. Why would he play well with others? He doesn't really care to. So next we have John Maher. Okay, seventh lord is debilitated in Cancer, in a strong house again. However, I want to discuss in the future, is he really debilitated or not? He's mostly not really debilitated, actually. I'll discuss that in another video, cancellation of debilitation. However, Venus is debilitated, and I'm going to recycle this chart. This chart is just phenomenal. It's a very cool chart. I'm going to use it in my creativity in astrology series, how you can see creativity in a person. This is stellar. Don't pardon the pun. It's amazing. It's a stellar piece of work. Really like it. Really good for success. Many things. But we see, Venus condition of marriage. We're looking at her. She's not doing so well. And another thing to remember is we have two negative aspects to the seventh house because Sun is in the first. And though Sun is good in the first house, generally the Sun in the first house people must learn how to share. The Sun is the king. Why would he share with like some foot soldier or something like that, some peasant? Because the person might have some overblown sense of self. It could be ego, but it could just be they really are just really dynamic, and it's hard for them to match up with other people with that level of charisma and then make it work. But, the North Node is also there, which gives an even more overblown sense of self. So those things paired together is going to cause a bit of damage to the seventh. And on top of that, South Node in the seventh can surely, there's debate whether it causes divorce or not. But one thing that's very clear is South Node in the seventh will tend to, well, it's a separative influence, so it tends to separate the person from interest in matrimony. There's other things they'd rather do. They'd rather hike and adopt dogs or open a bakery, or they tend to have more of a purpose or a cause that they share with the world or they're really interested in. So they're not really defined by that one thing, okay? Matrimony is just not something that they attach their entire persona around, where most people, when they marry, they merge their world with another completely. In this case, somebody might they don't really care for that. Maybe they really love love and they love companionship. They could be very romantic, but it's not everything to them. It's just one of the things that makes them who they are. But you can see very spiritual people from this placement. In any case, like I was mentioning earlier, social and cultural aspects and things, it could still happen, I suppose. I mean, I'll come back and tell you in 10 years if I'm still doing this, I'll remember, hopefully. But I think it's still possible, right? I think, I'm already calculating transits, but I think it's possible. Maybe, I don't know how old he is now. Mid-40s, 44. So yeah, he's 44. So it could happen 45, 46 or something like that, or 46 and on. Okay, Shakira. This is a very, very cool example. Very cool. Okay, so we start with the seventh. Hey, we have something here. We have the North Node. And so the North Node and the seven can, of course, give many indications of type of spouse, like foreign spouse or someone rather unorthodox. And her, her relationship with, she's with Gerard Piqué, and he's, I think, from Barcelona. He's a soccer player. And so he is foreign born to her. She's from Colombia. Secondly, he's 10 years younger than her. And they have the same birthday. So she's born, I think, in 1977. He's born 1987, February 2nd, both of them. And it's cool. So it's unorthodox. It's unusual, But they are together. I think they've been together like a decade-ish, I believe. And in any case, not legally married. So that's the first thing. All right, let's check Venus, the health of the seventh lord. And would you look, it's in the first house, debilitated. So we've got an affliction to the seventh, an affliction to Venus, plus she's sitting with the south node. So again, she's she's afflicted twice, I suppose, in that case. If another thing I wanted to mention, I put 11th sun. What does that have to do with anything? I want us to get into the habit of thinking of, I'm going to mention this when I do my little relationship crash course on Zoom. Whoever wants to sign up can just email me, gurugritinfo@gmail.com. The fifth house is really important. It's of paramount importance in a woman's chart for looking at marriage. And in my experience, and I can only speak for myself, of course, is you can, like, powerful transits to that house can trigger marriage. And she is retrograde debilitated Saturn in the fifth. And the fifth lord debilitates in the 11th. So I thought that was really cool. And I thought, what's funny? I was like, there must mean something. I don't know why. I must mean something. But that's my need to know everything. I didn't rest until I found out. And I did find out something for you. So here you have it. The 11th is the house where we see people who cohabitate, have intercourse and have relations, but never contract a legal marriage. So in this sense, you could say that her fifth ruler, where we see love and romance, goes into the house of common law. So I thought that was really, really interesting because she already has this sort of unorthodox flair. And she's going to do things her own way. And, like Venus, Aries women, as one of my friends said, I'm a bossy lover. I have that. And I thought that was really funny. So I thought, yeah, it's somebody who's going to do things their own way. And then it's just seconded. And then we have a scoring system here. So we see that that's actually really, really cool. So it works out well. But she's not legally married. She has children. And she's with the same. And I think the partner she had before this one, she was with for like 9-10 years or something. Very, very devoted, Saturn in the fifth doesn't like change. So she tends to stay with people for a long time. So it's quite nice and loyal. Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio, again, I'm not sure if he will remain unmarried. I'm not sure about that. But, seventh lord has Mars sits in its own sign and Venus is debilitated. Plus she is combust. And yeah, it's just interesting. But, strong Jupiter. That's quite helpful. So I don't know if he'll stay unmarried. What I do want to say is he might not have much of an interest in marriage. I mean, people are thinking, yes, Monika, I have eyes and ears. I know he doesn't care about marriage. But I was going to say for two reasons. One, okay, Mercury on the ascendant with the moon. Okay, Mercury and moon influence each other a bit and they copy each other quite a bit. They like mimic and absorb from one another. And Mercury people tend to... he's very mercurial, so they tend to be young at heart, or they'll age really well, or both. He looks very good for his age. He's playful, funny, and they can't, I'm not saying this specifically about him, but let's say, like, I always give the example that they can fall in love when they're 80 years old, like they're 18, so they just love the feeling of love, and Venus, of course, is, Venus ruled Libra is the sign of marriage. So he might just love the feeling of love and love falling in love over and over again. And then to say that where the one soul commitment, the ninth is really important, especially for men. Okay, the ninth house is like, it's institutions and law. And it's interesting because then marriage is a legally recognized institution. And so we have the south node there. So he probably can't be asked. He's probably not interested. And I wanted to say that too. I want to do a whole series on, I'm going to do it, ascetics in astrology. So an ascetic is a person who's just maybe like a monk or like a nun, and they're just not that into it. You know, they believe in something more. You'll see this quite a bit, actually. Maybe it's just my research, but I've seen this in quite a bit of people who have startups or who are big in tech. You know, they're just not. They're just like on a different frequency. They just think like, what? That's my mental energy. That's my time. What do I care what kind of hobby you have or away with you? Like, I'm busy being productive, you know? So maybe it's something like that, though I will say this is not the worst example I've ever seen. So he still might be married. That's why he only has the combust Venus that I put there. I'm still thinking is doable, is possible. Okay. Sarah Silverman. This one, I don't know, if you want a pool of people who will never marry, look no further than comedians. I think it's a really hard job, and if you don't succeed, it can really, it could be very hard to pull a mate. I don't think that's gender specific either, but it's a difficult life. And for some reason, I don't know if funny people are just like generally really traumatized or something, or hard to relate to, but there's so many unmarried comedians to choose from. So I went with Sarah Silverman, because her chart is actually, I would say again, not a horrible example, but you know, so she still might marry, but seventh lord, so she's a Sagittarius rising, so seventh lord is Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini. And we see that goes into the first. One fun little, okay, sorry, let's backtrack a little bit. One thing I will say is when I'm looking at synastry, and I've been doing research on synastry for a long time, for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me, because everybody knows mutable signs occupying the axis, okay? Kind Virgo, romantic sweet Pisces, playful Gemini, dreamy Sagittarius. No one cares. Everyone always says if you have mutables on the angles, divorce is always like very likely, or no marriage is likely because these people are too changeable and they don't like to settle down, etc. But for whatever reason, Gemini Sagittarius axis, a lot of people are in like long-term partnerships and married for long time. So that one kind of bucks the current, and I kind of have to figure out why. I'm not really sure, but so that's why I'm saying I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it for this woman. But in any case, the second thing I wanted to say before I get into it was, if the seventh lord goes into the first house, I've seen this in my own work. If the seventh ruler is in the first, you tend to have a lot of prospects. So a lot of people could be interested in you. You might not care for them, all right? But generally you have a magnetism because the seventh is other people, and you draw them to yourself, right? So here we have it. Seventh lord in the first, Mercury. Mercury is debilitated, okay? And we see Venus is in Scorpio. She's debilitated. And then I mentioned the ninth, and ninth has South Node in it, so K2's probably maybe she's more spiritual, or maybe she just doesn't like the idea, or anybody with this really, I don't mean Sarah Silverman, but maybe they don't like the rigidity or the expectation of what it does to you culturally to become a wife. Okay, I think Oprah Winfrey's mentioned that. She's like, it's it's how society perceives you when you're married. And I read a book some time ago called, I forget, I think her name was Alex Kingston. I don't want to say that, I'm not sure, but it's called The Meaning of Wife. It's this Torontonian journalist who wrote it, and it's just sort of interesting how your image in society can be tweaked by that simple ceremony and a few words and a piece of paper. But fifth house again, fifth lord for a woman, very, very important, okay? And it's debilitated in the 11th. So just one of these things alone, I don't think is enough to deny a marriage, but we see now we're up to 5. We've checked off 5 different things. Though that being said, you know, Jupiter is healthy. Okay, Jupiter, I think he's in a good house. He's in a house of loss, but it's his own house, and he's in a very good sign. So, I mean, yeah, receiving aspect from retrograde Saturn, but I think it could still, it's still possible. I'm an optimist. You can't change me. I'll always hope for the best. But okay, this is like an unspeakable horror. It's like, how is Keanu Reeves unmarried on our planet? I need to like put holy water eye drops in my eyeballs to like get over that. That is crazy to me. Truly, it's a detriment to women everywhere. But this is an interesting chart. Okay, 7th house. has retrograde Saturn in it. So Saturn generally will delay. If he's retrograde, he will delay marriage. Now we also have aspect from Sun, so that's a bit much. And in any case, the way that I would interpret this, okay, Venus isn't debilitated. She's close to Mars, but Venus isn't debilitated. Maybe it's a bit uncomfortable for her being with debilitated, agitated Mars, though he's getting some help from Moon in its own sign. But in any case, I mean, it's not the best, okay? So it's slightly weak. So what I would really narrow this down to is he'll get married extremely late. I believe, I'm not sure, I think he's in his late 40s, 50s by now, maybe 50s, mid 50s. And the other one too is when you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th, there's just karmas you have to deal with. It sounds, like you chose to come here and sort that out so you could move on. And that's kind of it. It's nothing like scary or miserable. It's just like, okay, well, I learned a lot, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot. What's next? It's nothing to be like bummed about. And karma too, it occupies the 5th of romance. So if a sign of Saturn occupies the 5th house, I've seen that it can kind of just be like, it dampens, it's like a wet blanket or like a rain cloud on a picnic. You're just like, oh man, like I had planned all this stuff and I wanted to do all these cool things. And it's just like, you just look like you got rained on. It's just sort of like lame. But remember that Saturn sweetens over time. So, he's probably, and there's this expectation just generally that romance is something for young people. And if you're out of the bloom of youth, you're just supposed to like wither and never feel love again. But usually people with strong Saturn influences, they tend to be able to experience the sweetness of life a bit later on. Okay. So I don't worry for him. Good things are ahead. Okay. Kylie Minogue. This is a really interesting example. First of all, cool. This is a proper stellium. I really think this is so cool. In any case, and actually speaking of people who age well that I said are really mercurial, so Mercury is her soul planet. She has 5 planets in the sign of Mercury, and she's pretty much like an ageless vampire. She just looks amazing, okay? She looks better now than when she was in her 20s or teens. Smashing. Good for her. God bless. I love Kylie Minogue. She's just one of those people everybody likes. I love her. Okay, 7th Lord. 7th Lord Saturn rules Capricorn, goes into the 10th house, is debilitated, and really, really aggravated with the North Node. Okay, these are both very karmic things, so really, really heavy. Now, I do know someone that has this conjunction in this sign, and they were married, and they will probably be married a second time, okay? So it's certainly extremely delayed marriage for her. However, Venus is combust as well, but she's not debilitated. I mean, I think she's overwhelmed. Okay, she's got the lowest degree in this humongous stellium, and she's pushing everyone. She's pushing them all on. Okay, she's probably tired. She's born to chill. Venus is the laziest thing in the solar system. She's not here to do any kind of work. And now that she has to, she's just like, oh man. So I think I'm going to be optimistic. And, I wish for everyone to have their heart's desire. So I'm surely going to say that I would like to see Kylie Minogue get married because the 9th house ruler is Jupiter, rules Pisces, and he's actually quite strong. He's in his own, he's signifies the 2nd house, and he's in a very good sign. So that would be cool to see. But again, extreme delay, or if she was married in her 20s or something, she would probably be separated and divorced, because the 7th Lord is just under so much pressure. I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot. Right. Bill Maher, very cool example. Another one. He has, I think, openly said of his lack of interest in marriage. He would rather utilize his time in other ways. I was surprised. I just found this out tonight. I was just looking around of like who's never been married, and I just assumed he was married. I don't know. But yeah, he's never been married. And I looked up a few interview clips, and he just says, I just don't want to see the same person every day. I don't want to do the same stuff every day. And it's so funny to me because, look, Libra rising, Seventh lord is Mars, and Mars is, first of all, Mars is very harshly hemmed. I put horribly hemmed. That's supposed to say harshly, harshly hemmed. And he's close to Saturn, which is quite lonely, right? So somebody who likes their own company. And again, South Node in the ninth. Okay, South Node in the ninth. And in terms of love and romance, Saturn is the ruler here, and Saturn is also afflicted by this very, very karmic and harsh conjunction. So clearly he's in the right profession because, speaking, broadcasting, writing, expressing, being quick-witted, all those things are definitely something that can give him, okay, so, Saturn controls the masses, and the North Node can give mass fame. So this can give him mass fame through those mediums, and certainly it has. Wonderful. He also has exalted moon, so he's probably just like, meh, he's happy either way, but really cool to see. So other interesting thing to point out is he has exalted Venus. So you would think, but you know what? I think he can meet very nice ladies, very nice people, and I think he's worthy of them. I think he's probably a very good partner. He's a very, I know it's retrograde, but he's a very healthy Jupiter. Yeah. He has some really nice things going. He's probably just again, like I was saying, probably the rigidity or the expectation of marriage culturally and societally just kind of is not that. They're just like, what is that about? But I think it's a person who's capable of giving something valuable, because Venus rules value and harmony of relationships, all these wonderful things, and she's extremely healthy. Her dispositor is quite healthy. So yeah, he probably just doesn't care for it. But Jupiter is like the ultimate that a man can be, and like the husband and the father, and it's retrograde, so he's probably thinking, but Jupiter rules knowledge, right? So he's probably thinking, I can be those things, but why do I have to be them in that way? So he's gonna do his own thing, which is cool. All right, I thought that was super interesting. Very, very interesting. So look for the seventh lord, health of the seventh lord. And just remember a couple of things. I was mentioning culture and society. Just because someone doesn't get married doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't, or that they didn't have the opportunity, or that they weren't lovable, as we often think. Sometimes they just, don't care. So thanks for watching. And here's a picture I took getting off a bus of a man who had this amazing haircut. It's like a buzz cut. And in the back of his head, he had a black kitten carved out. And this is his actual hair. This is not taped on. I'm serial. I'm absolutely serial right now. I'm so seriously. And I could not believe my eyes, because at the time, in the place where I lived, I had 2 black cats. And I was just thinking about them. I thought, do I have to get some cat food? And I looked down the escalator, and this man was right in front of me, and I couldn't get my phone out fast enough, and took a picture of that. So, what a lucky omen. I just want to share with you. And thanks for hearing me out. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time with I'm going to start the creativity series. So I'll give relationships a bit of a rest. I'll come to it here and there as and when I have time or inspiration strikes. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. I love you all. Bye-bye.